Everybody, Mr. Wheeler here, recording a little video as follow-up for the synthesis practice timed right, rather, that you guys did on Thursday. Sitting in my office recording this on a frigid Monday afternoon, hoping that it'll be of some use to you as you self-assess your own work and think about what you want to change and do differently in future work. So basically what I'm going to do is walk you through how I would approach the prompt from last week, writing an intro and probably just one body paragraph, and hopefully just kind of seeing inside my head gives you a little bit of guidance or pushes you towards, more success in your own synthesis work. Apologies in advance that you're having to hear me in such a kind of croaky, nasally way. I've come down with a little bit of a cold over the long weekend, but to make it worth your while, be aware. I am including throughout the video several secret code phrases or code words. And when I'm done with this video, those words can be assembled into a secret code phrase that you can email to me to show me that you have in fact watched this video in exchange for some possible fabulous prizes. Okay? We'll just leave it at that. So be paying attention for those code words. They'll be interspersed throughout as I'm walking you through my response. Okay, so the prompt, if you recall, is asking you to think about or to make an argument about the extent to which schools should include handwriting instruction in their curriculum. Like, how much should we be teaching handwriting and why? Okay, so I've got my sources marked up in front of me. Obviously, you can't see that from the screen that I have projected here, but I'm going to be drawing upon them in just the same way that you guys would have to. Let's just launch into an introduction. Okay, so of course your intro should establish that there's some debate and complexity with the issue. Hopefully is engaging and provocative in setting the stage before you get into your thesis. I think what I'm going to do here is start in a way that points out how there are lots of ways our society kind of maintains old-fashioned ways of doing stuff. And then I'll use that as kind of a jumping off point for the rest of my thesis. Seems like kind of a logical way to lead in. So I'm going to start like this. I'll say, in spite of living in an increasingly advanced age. Excuse me. Let's say many people still adhere to old-fashioned habits and tendencies. Okay, just kind of pointing out broadly, this is the way that we act. I could name a few really quick. I'll do that right now. The rise of technology hasn't caused us to drop the pleases, or let's just say the please and thank you from our interactions with others. And many still prefer reading physical books over reading on a screen. All right, just kind of illustrating, yes, we tend to still go for old-fashioned things. We haven't dropped all those things. Now I'm going to start shifting to the real subject here. The same is true of traditional, sorry for my terrible typing, handwriting. But perhaps this method of conveying ideas is one holdover from earlier times we could do without. This is particularly apparent in our schools. And now I'm just going to move straight into my thesis. While some still find that handwriting has sentimental or artistic value, it should ultimately be removed from school curricula because it prioritizes conformity over creativity. I saw a couple different sources that I could probably use in conjunction with each other to make this point. And eats up precious time needed to develop other skills. Neither of which our society can afford. All right, so there's my intro from start to finish. I know that I've got this space so that you can't see the whole thing all at once, but at the end, I'll show you the whole thing. First code word is. The code word is. Moving into a body paragraph. Okay, so I want my body paragraphs to just follow the line of reasoning that I've built in my thesis. So I'll start with that first key point. I'll say, crucially, schools which prioritize handwriting instruction, especially, oopsies, in the early formative years, let's say students, early formative years, risk stamping out creativity, let's say their creativity, and innovation. Or let's say innovativeness. An outcome with very concerning results for our future. Okay, this is a really, really crucial thing for me to be doing here, is not just pointing out, okay, it can stifle creativity because the sources do show this or suggest it. I want to be able to say, okay, this has broader implications. Okay, I want to go beyond just summarizing what the sources have to say and talk about how, okay, I can see the implications that this would have for society if we let that kind of lack of creativity sort of fester. So now I'm going to start moving into my first piece of source evidence. Some romanticize handwriting as a key factor in our identity. And I'm actually going to give credit here to source C because that idea is brought up in source C. You know what? I'll just say, I'll do it this way. In developing a unique identity. So kind of paraphrasing a little bit from what source C was talking about. So I've just kind of addressed a counter argument, basically, that's brought up in one of the sources that I'm going to rebut. Second code word, credit. Okay, let me keep going here now. But this belief, now I'm going to immediately knock back at what the source is saying. But this belief in handwriting's power to distinguish us as individuals simply isn't supported by the history of penmanship instruction. And so this is something else that I'm going to be pulling from my sources on. So it's not supported by the history of penmanship instruction in which, I'll just say generations of children were forced to adhere to strict methods meant to result in nearly identical handwriting. And let's say it this way, nearly identical script from all writers. Just don't want to have that word writing showing up as much. I can vary the terms a little bit to make it a little less clunky. Okay, so, and that is info that I'm paraphrasing again from source C. Okay, yes, I'm using the same source to kind of refute itself, but I think that I can pull that off here, okay? Because the source on the one hand brings up there are those who believe this, but then also tells us, oh, well, the way that handwriting is taught really just kind of encourages conformity and for all kids to write in basically the same manner. Okay, so I'm going to end the sentence there. All right, at this point, all I've done is showcase what a source has to say. I haven't really done much thinking of my own yet, so now it's time for me to step in and say, well, who cares? If schools are teaching kids to write in this identical kind of manner, what's the big deal? So I'm going to say it's hard to imagine that methods like these were conducive to breeding unorthodox thinkers. Okay, if you're teaching everybody to write in kind of the same manner, you're kind of stifling creativity here and creative or unconventional thinking. So let's go into that a little bit more. Perhaps identical or maybe compliant thinking was suitable in a time in which many work jobs that didn't require much intellectual output. But times have undoubtedly changed. And more children, let's say, and more the workforce values the ability to think in more creative ways. Okay, so I'm just kind of observing that the world is changing. Now I'm going to bring in some other source information from source B and use it to say, well, we're not really changing our methodology even though times are changing. Third code word, this. Third code word, this. Okay, so bringing in some new source information to prove that, well, we're still kind of teaching in the same old way. Yet, the process, we're teaching cursive writing, is still much the same as it was in generations past. Focusing on repetitive drills. That's what I'm seeing when I look at that source B, that writing worksheet, basically. Focusing on repetitive drills meant to teach children the correct manner, of displaying one's thoughts. Source B. So once again, paraphrasing from the source. Okay, I think I'm going to stop the video here, guys, and then record a part 2 so that I can finish this paragraph and include the rest of the also important code words. So stick tight.